Now then, people, and happy bank holiday Monday. It is time for another instalment of the Daily Leeds. We've got another jam-packed show for you today. We've got a Kalvin Phillips special, a tactical times piece on the mighty Whites and their first season back in the Premier League, and another young striker linked from the States. So plenty for us to get into. Before we do, smash a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in, and of course, hit that notification bell. The support for the channel has been absolutely huge over the last 2-3 weeks that I've been doing this. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming along on that journey and helping, support me. It means the world. But listen, I hope you're having are due to have a great bank holiday Monday. This is coming to you nice, bright and early. Well, I suppose it is. It depends when you're watching it, really. You might not be watching it at the time it's been released. I don't know. But I'm going to stop talking now. I'm rambling and let's get into the video. Heard it right. It's going to be Just Joe and it's going to be all about football. He showed descent. Bamford, it's in! Yes! Yes! I've not seen many more appearances from Pablo. Fantastic inaugural guest. I had to pull out the big guns. And this is the moment when I take a stand. So guys, we're going to start with the main man, the boyo, the Yorkshire Perlo. We're going to start with Kalvin Phillips, the cool, I was going to swear then, but the cool dude that he is was in GQ and he did a quality interview in GQ, looking crisp as out in his Stony Island shirt, looking like a dapper don. And I just thought we would go through it because there was some great little sound bites from that interview that he did with GQ, just about Bielsa, getting the England call up, a little bit about Granny Val, and of course his time at Leeds United from such a young age. So I thought we would go through that first of all. As I said, this is the Daily Leeds. This brings you all the latest news from Fort Parch and Ellen Road. And we're going to start with the GQ interview with Kalvin Phillips. He spoke, I don't know, some of you might never have heard this story. He spoke about Bielsa and how when he first came to the club, and how, he was first introduced to them in the changing rooms and he was going around putting his hand on players' heads, giving them that touch of God and telling them which position they'll play. So he went up to Kamar Roof, you're number 9, Luke Kalin, you're my right back. And obviously he made his way round to Phillips. And Phillips mentioned that when Bielsa reached him, he put his hand on my head and said, number 4. I was expecting number 8 and I looked over as if to say, what? I think he's got the wrong player. But it just shows the foresight of Marcelo Bielsa, because let's be honest, that season when he first came in, we'd have all been ready for Kalvin to move on. Players will, some fans will disagree, but had he have gone, I think a lot of fans would have preferred Ronaldo Vieira to stay, and we were unhappy at the point that he was sold. But it just shows the manner of Bielsa and his foresight to know that Kalvin was, a number 4. Would play in that single pivot on his own and absolutely boss midfields, not only in the Championship, but in the Premier League as well, up against key opposition, De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, playing for England, Bielsa knew that, man. Bielsa knew that's what potential this kid has. And I just think that's a great little story recounting that. He touched on players in the Premier League, such as Mo Salah, Marcus Rashford. And he says, look, if you go, you have a good game, they recognise you, they know who you are. The encounters with big name players kept coming fast through the first half of the season, with Phillips often marking the best playmakers and attackers in the world. He said, look, we played Man City at home against Kevin De Bruyne. He was unbelievable. Then there was Harry Kane at their place. The way that he is, the way that he holds the ball up and can pick passes, the way he can score, it's ridiculous, And I think there was a lot of that in the early stages, especially in the first Premier League season, where we were a little bit overawed by the occasion. Who can forget Manchester United away? Who can forget that first 15, 20 minutes against Manchester City? They were like, wow, this is City we're playing here. You had Mahrez, you had Sterling, you had De Bruyne, just absolutely taking the piss for that first 15 minutes or so. But then that quickly went, and I think that's had a lot to do with our performances in the second half of the season as well, is the fact that the likes of Kalvin and that have got used to Premier League football and are saying, do you know what? We deserve to be here. And not only do we deserve to be here, we're good enough to be here. Do you know what I mean? And we're bossing it. And we've seen that with the running, 1 loss in 10 games, exceptional. Second only to Liverpool in the Premier League running. They spoke about Phillips and his idols, and it makes for a great read. I mean, he said Billy Bremner, Jack Charlton, Eddie Gray. He then said Eric Cantona, Alan Smith, and Mark Viduka. The Cantona's a mad one, but he mentioned him in the interview. He said, then obviously Eric Cantona, Alan Smith. Listen, say what you want about Alan Smith, but I know he went there, and I know a lot of you will disagree, but Alan Smith was, along with Batty, when I was growing up, was the boy, man. He spoke about Mark Viduka. And then he said, when I was coming into the team, there were the likes of Jermaine Beckford, Luciano Becchio, Robert Snodgrass, and Johnny Howson, all the players that I looked up to. I wanted to be in their shoes, and it's all Leeds names. There's no mention there of, I don't know, you see some people, and I watched an interview the other day with Harry Maguire, for example, on Gary Neville's YouTube channel, and he was speaking about Ferdinand, Terry, and these were at their club when he was coming through. He was at Sheffield United, whereas Kalvin has stayed true to Leeds, man. And this is the difference between Leeds fans, Leeds players that are born, raised in the city and are Leeds through and through, Leeds till they die, The fact that he's looking at his own. If he was old enough, he'd have mentioned probably David Batty, but he's got in there the lads that have come through our youth setup or are synonymous with the football club. We know how much Beckford's lauded, Snodgrass lauded when he was here, Howson, etc. So it's just class to hear that. It did say as well in the reporter in the GQ interview, he said, obviously, when I had to transcribe it through the American auto transcribing program, his Yorkshire accent was absolutely like throwing up some mad stuff coming through. He said it was like trying to force a brick through a mangle. If anyone don't know what a mangle is, it's what you put your clothes through, when you would dry them out back in the day. So yeah, they were just talking about him being Leeds through and through. He spoke about Granny Val. We all know how much of a bearing she had on his career. He spoke about obviously her passing in February and how when they won the next game 3-0 against Southampton, they dedicated it to her memory. And he says he still watches a video of her dancing to Billy Ocean's When the Going Gets Tough, the Tough Gets Going before games, which I think that is a lovely touch. And that just tells you about Kalvin Phillips, who Kalvin Phillips is. Do you know what I mean? He's just a family lad, just a normal lad, a Yorkshire boy, and before games, he's watching a video of his, of his gran singing and dancing to that song. I think that's such a beautiful touch. You know that song, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. When the going gets rough. Yeah, that one there. I only know it because I think Boyzone did it. I don't know, when I was growing up. But you all know that song. And I just think that is an unreal touch from Kalvin. They spoke about the Villa move and a little bit on Europe. And obviously we know that Granny Val had such a big impact on that, because she was saying, what we're going to do, Kalvin, you've got all your family here. So she was such a big part of him staying. And he did say, look, there was a rumour of a move to Villa in 19, but it was Granny Val who talked to grandson out of it. Leeds club and city remains his home. He says, I want to be a player that's got a lot of games to his name, but I want them to be games that mean something. And I want to play in the Europa League, the Champions League. I want to do that with Leeds. And the way that we are heading, there is no reason why we shouldn't, And I think that's unreal to hear him say that. We know that the club is shouting that sort of stuff, Victor Orta. We know us fans want Europe, and Kalvin's there. He wants it, and he wants it with Leeds United, which is refreshing and ace to hear. We spoke about the season ending where we finished in 9th, and he said, look, a tiny bit more of a killer instinct. Perhaps Leeds could have been pushing for top 6 at least. Looking back on it, we could have won a certain few games and maybe been even higher. But now we're happy where we are. And I think we would all agree with that. I look back at the Arsenal one at home, how we never beat them. We lost to Wolves twice. There's 2 Brighton poor performances. And listen, we were only 3 wins away from Champions League football. 9 points. It's nothing really when you consider some of the games that we should have got something out of. And then he spoke about Bielsa. He said, look, in Leeds, my first season back in the top flight, Bielsa was voted manager of the season by BBC Sport. We were a mid-table championship side before he came in, says Phillips, and he got us to where we are now, a mid-table Premier League side in 3 seasons. It's immense, and it's a credit to the way that he works, which we all know how good Bielsa is. Bielsa's influence can't be understated, Phillips insisted. His desire, his dedication to the football is beyond anyone that I've ever read about or met. And I think the only few people that I've heard that are close to him are Pep and Pochettino, and Pep's obviously at City, Pochettino at PSG. Phillips went on to say he spoke to some players at Manchester City, Phil Foden, Kyle Walker, John Stones, obviously during the England setup, and they said, look, they describe Pep as exactly the same, obsessed with understanding each different team, the sides play and unlocking them. And he said, same at Spurs, I was speaking to Eric Dyer and Harry Winks because I was on the bench for our last game against Tottenham, and Harry was there saying that Pochettino is exactly the same as Bielsa. And is it no surprise that Pochettino, played under Bielsa? We know that Pep says he got all his footballing knowledge from this man, and it's class. And I just love the fact that he's just kicking back, talking about Bielsa to Foden, Walker and Stones on England duty. You can't tell me no one would have predicted that this is what this boy would be doing. Having conversations with Foden, Walker, Stones, just chatting on England duty about Bielsa. None of us could have dreamt of that in our wildest dreams. And I dare say Kalvin would be in that same boat as well. He said, look, on England, obviously getting that call up, he's a one-club player. But while he's been at Leeds, he's attracted significant interest in other quarters. Obviously, while he was still playing in the Championship, he received 2 phone calls in quick succession. He said, my agent called me and I said, look, Gareth Southgate's going to give you a ring in the next few minutes. I'll put the phone down. And he said, all the best. He said, I just sat in the car, turned the music down, waiting for the phone call. And then, as I say, he gets the England call from Gareth, who tells him that he's been named in the England squad for the debut National Leagues campaign, the Nations League. He said, we'll see you next week. I put the phone down and screamed at the top of my voice and got on the phone to my grandma, my mum and my girlfriend. They were crying all down the phone. Class. And he spoke about Bielsa as well and said, look, Bielsa actually said to him that this was an ambition of his, like a lot of managers complain about the extra strain on international duty, the amount of games these players play. And Bielsa turned to Phillips and said, this is exactly what I wanted you to do. I wanted you to play for England. He said, we were doing a passing drill during training and he came over and said to him, I can't wait to watch you at Wembley playing these passes. And we know how good Kalvin is. We've seen that goal the other week, Rodrigo's goal, where the Harrison ball, the ball out from Kalvin to Harrison before that scored is absolutely sumptuous. Same with the Harrison one, for example. Just lovely balls out from Phillips. And while this is going on at Leeds, Bielsa's gone up to him and said, I can't wait to see you do that for England, man. That's amazing. It is absolutely class. And that's some of the key points from the interview, guys. I will put the link in the description to that GQ interview so you can read it in full for yourself, because it is a beauty. But I just wanted to go through some of the key parts of that with you. Also, guys, I'm going to put another link in the description. Leeds United were voted the Tactical Times Football Analysis, Twitter websites team of the season. They put legs, lungs, heart and brain. Why Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds United is the Tactical Times team of the year for 2020-21. He said that the most successful Premier League season for a promoted time for 20 years. Unbeaten against the champions-elect, entertaining, explosive, endlessly energetic. Leeds United became most people's second team this season. I don't like that as a Leeds United fan, you know what I mean? And it'll certainly change next season when we've got fans in the ground 24/7. But I understand it, and the article's amazing. I'll pick out some key bits. I'm going to put the link in the description. It says, under the stewardship of the elite manager Marcelo Bielsa, his game is as lovable as it is chaotic. Leeds had an unforgettable return to the big time after 16 long, unforgiving years. And some of the stuff, like I say, guys, they touch on the sprinting, the fight and the fitness of the side. They said they do run a lot, loads actually, comfortably more than any other team. I'm going to share a graphic with you as well, just to show you how much I've done this before, but I'll do it again. And there you can see that graphic, guys. And up top right-hand corner of that graphic is, of course, Leeds United. And that's for sprints per 90 and distance covered. And we absolutely dwarf the opposition for sprints. It's absolutely exceptional, to think that this team is putting out numbers. And you can see why we've been voted the tactical team of the season. He says, look, it's not even remotely close. Leeds wiped the floor with the Premier League in the sprinting stakes. They press like rabid, possession-hungry animals too. We lead the race for pressures per 90. The success rate is 51.9%. Second to Sheffield United, as I say, and then there's a lot of other big teams in there as well. We top the overall pressers list through Europe's top 5 leagues. Top 5 leagues, guys. We top the overall pressers list throughout Europe's top 5 leagues. It's amazing. You know, it is mad. And there's a question there that says, but how is this possible, I hear you ask, with the schedules and the internationals and the Carabao Cup? How do they just keep running? Where is Bielsa's burnout? We all know about these burnouts, quotes that come from the media. And he says in the article, you know, it's a good question. And the answer is deeply complex and confidential in most football circles. They work out a lot. They endure ruthless training sessions designed to target those specific areas with sprints and pressing and general chaos. A pre-season regime that would make your European Super League teams call in sick. And then they speak about, obviously, murder ball. And there's some key quotes in there. We've got one from Luke Kalvin. You go out and it's a full-sided game and we just play football. Just play a game, but it's 5 minutes and people are kicking lumps out of each other. You fall down and don't get a foul. They're counter-attacking. The ball goes, so the staff chuck in another ball. 5 minutes, you rest for a minute and then you go again. That's where we get our fitness from. Hell for leather, running to each other, no fouls, no offsides. The most annoying thing for a defender, you scream for offside, but you've got the manager and 4 members of the staff just going, run, run, run. It seems to work for us. We are going to keep doing it and keep doing our stuff. It works, says Luke Kalvin. There's also Mateus Click. It's just a normal game with normal rules. 11v11 on a big pitch. You just play, but you can't stop running. It's tough. Even if the ball goes out, there's a member of staff waiting with another ball to put it in. You can't stop. You know, but it's the most important session of the week for them, and that's what gets them into peak, you know, physical condition. Bamford was asked about it as well, and he says, look, you feel mentally tired. We do a lot of work, but the coaches and the manager have set it up so you can sometimes feel tired the day before a game, but 9 times out of 10, we go into the game feeling fine once we start. They know what they're doing. They put us in a position where we go into the game feeling fresh. The physical work we do before the season starts is what allows us to go all the way through. No burnout, guys, and we know that to be the case. He speaks on the article about tactical fluidity. He said I counted 6 different starting formations for Leeds in the Premier League this season. I expect there were many more in-game tinkerings with overlapping centre-backs and full-backs becoming 10s and 10s becoming centre-backs. I half expect young Ilian Melier rotating with Cooper or Pascal Struijk in a loose rush goalie system. Nearest to the goal can use his hands. And we've said that about Dallas, haven't we? He gets played so many different positions that we half expect him to, you know, turn up in goals at sometimes. And I think, to be fair, he could do that. Honestly, it's an amazing article. There's loads in there. There's heat maps, there's videos. You know, and this is summed up. This is how they sum it up. I'm going to put the article in the description. Make sure you check it out. It says Leeds didn't win any titles. In fact, they were eliminated from both cup competitions at the first hurdle in quite embarrassing circumstances by teams far inferior. But that doesn't matter. The Premier League was the priority, really the only target, and Leeds smashed it in the Premier League. The lungs and legs are strong and tireless. The head has a brain able to adapt and react and think for itself. And that heart, the heart is strongest of all. If Leeds aren't careful, they will use up all of their underdog points and just become another really good, really successful, really capable Premier League team. They might just find themselves right back at the top, which is, let's be totally honest, where they belong, up the whites. What an awesome article. What a way to end the article. I'm going to put the link in the description. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you read it all. I really enjoyed reading it. And I really enjoyed going through it with you there as well. And just to finish on today's Daily Leeds on the roundup, guys, it's just a link. Apparently Everton and Leeds are leading the race to sign Barnsley forward Daryl Dike. The American netted 9 times in 19 appearances in the Championship on loan from Orlando City. Everton, Wolves, Leeds United, along with another number of Premier League clubs, are supposed to be admirers of the 20-year-old. He led a massive charge up the championship table for Barnsley and landed the team in the promotion playoffs. Obviously, they lost ultimately. The team didn't make the cut to the top flight, but the American striker was impressive in his performances and has been linked with several clubs in the past. This summer, it seems like the only market for him is the Premier League. It's really heating up, and it's only a matter of time until he moves to the English top flight. As I say, he's just 20-year-old. He is, in Orlando. He's scored goals in MLS. He's come to the Championship and done it there whilst on loan at Barnsley as well, scoring 9 goals. He's a young lad. Maybe he's someone we look at not to start games. You'd be looking at a Geldart, Greenwood, that kind of vibe. We know that the under-23s are going to get fleshed out some more between now and the start of next season. So maybe he's in that bracket, guys, because we know the players that we need that'll be coming into the first-time team. It's quality over quantity. I expect 3 to 4 additions of real quality. Listen, not loads of transfer news for you today, but just the daily Leeds, all the latest news from Fort Parch and, of course, Ellen Road. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed this episode. Keep it locked as per. The Top Flight News Bite will be back soon as well. It's just been a mad bank holiday weekend, loads of stuff on with the family and stuff, but I will make sure we get that going again very, very soon. It'll be a triple rollover, I think, by the time we get the next one out. But thank you, as always, for watching. Like the video, subscribe, comment, and get your notification bell on. And I'll see you in a bit. Leeds, Leeds, Leeds.